my name's Charlotte Pounds. I'm doing the Level 3 Forest School course. I'm going to show you the safe lighting of a fire. For the purposes of today, I'm not actually using a fire pit that I have in my school classroom because it is the Easter holidays and we are closed for the holiday purpose. But I have brought my fire pit and I'm using it today on my patio. So it is safe. I also don't have any learners with me. If I did have learners with me, they would be sitting on my safety logs, which are 2 feet away from the middle of my fire pit. And the learners understand and know that when they are to join a fire, if they want to cook on the fire or interact with the fire, they need to move backwards from the log so that they're behind the log, and then from there they can join and walk into the middle of the circle. I would also have safety logs all around the fire pit so that my learners could see where they need to sit safely. For the purpose of this video, I am going to start the fire in the respect pose, and this is the respect pose. It means that I am safe when I'm lighting the fire. Okay, so to get the fire going, you need to use all the principles of the fire triangle. That is fire, oxygen and heat. So the heat will be caused from the type of things that I have in my fire pit, which is kindling and dry twigs. I've also got some dried grass that I was growing and I've left it to dry, and I'm also going to use for the fuel some cotton wool with some Vaseline, so the petroleum jelly will get the fire going. But the heat will come from the kindling, and then to keep the fire going I'll then move on to the second phase, which is longer and bigger bits of wood. Okay, so I'm going to start my fire now. I'm using a flint and sparker. Okay, so that takes up really nicely. Beside my fire I also have my fire safety gloves, which I use when I want to handle the fire. And I have my bigger bits of wood. I have a burns first aid kit that contains everything that I need. I have a water bucket, and I have my starting kit. Okay, so that's starting to take up quite nicely. It is windy today, so that's why I've also chosen to start my fire in the fire pit so that the fire is nicely contained. So you can see that we've got the fuel and oxygen. There's lots of oxygen already in the air today, so that should keep the fire going. So I've got my smaller bits. Then I can add my larger bits of wood to the fire, and I'm just going to place them around like this, and that will keep it going. And I'm building it up in the figure of a grid so that it's constantly oxygenated underneath, but then it's also making impact with the kindling and the grass. Okay, so my larger bits of wood now are starting to catch fire. We don't want the fire to be too big because the heat is generated from the centre of the fire pit, and we want it to be nice and warm and continue cooking through, because in a minute I'm going to start cooking on the fire. Just adding it there. When I'm touching with the fire, I always make sure that I'm wearing my safety glove. And when we're handling the fire, we need to move the fire around. You just use one piece of wood. Usually I would use some wood that I found in the forest, some wood from maybe a stick or a twig. It has to be dried as well. Any moisture on the wood, it will mean that the fire will go out. So that's cooking up nicely now, and shortly I will be preparing to do some cooking. oxygen from the air and the wind is really blowing the fire up. So again, I would make sure that I, as the teacher, am beside the fire pits, and I would risk assess how safe it was for the children to be sitting just beside it. It might be that we do an activity where they're cooking with longer sticks over the fire, something like dampener bread or toasting a marshmallow. But these nice bits of log, these bits of wood, they're now starting to catch. Other wood that I might use, we have lots of willow that's being cut down in our forest, we have lots of poplar, we also have some bay, so I would potentially cut down that and use my shears to cut it into smaller pieces when it's dry. I'd also get the children to help me find smaller pieces of kindling to use to keep the fire going. So yeah, I'm really happy with that, and in a moment we will be starting to prepare our cooking activity. As you can see, the fire's really starting to catch on now. So these smaller logs, they're catching on. The wind is blowing it up nice. I also have a grill that I will put on top when I'm cooking, so that the pans are nicely sat on top of that. Really nice heat now off the fire, where it's catching with all of the pieces of wood, so I'm going to move myself slightly back to ensure that I'm safe. Lots of the kindling and the grass has really taken nicely, so that's all burning down, and the fire is finding its next fuel, which is the larger pieces of wood. So when that has calmed down slightly and is burning down nicely, it will then be a perfect time to start cooking. And my cooking today, I will be using two techniques. I'll be boiling some milk to make hot chocolate, and frying, and we'll be scrambling up some eggs with some foraged wild garlic and 3-cornered leeks.